It is a great joy, and soon we will only be looking at the speakers. So I was saying that because of the many activities that the Women's Federation started from the very beginning of its inception, very quickly, just 5 years after its founding, it became recognized by the United Nations as in the general consultative status of the Economic and Social Council. That is an incredible recognition so quickly after its inception. So this time we have decided to organize 3 virtual meetings with the general theme of women's role in shaping the future of the Middle East. It is very important to know how really we can influence and we can bring the wanted changes to this part of the world that is so precious and has so much potential. And in particular today, we are going to talk about youth, which is the future for every part of the world, and about the youth of the Middle East, and how we can, as women and as professionals, empower youth to become future leaders, and what kind of practices, what are the best practices, what is the educational system, everything that can be around youth. Also, we will have youth telling us what they want, what are their dreams, their desires, their efforts, and how they are able to meet them, and what really they need from us as adults. So before I give the floor to our first speaker, I just wanted to tell you that there is the chat where you can be writing your questions. We will not take oral questions, but you can, during the deliberations, you can be writing your questions also in Arabic, if you prefer. And at the end, when it will be the time of questions and answers, there will be 2 people who will take the English questions, or the Arabic will express them in English, and the answers will be given in English. All right. So these are the, also I have written at the very top my email, sorry, bennett.z.a. So if you want to have more information, if you would like to have news for the next session that we will have, if you would like to receive the summary of this and the recording of this session, please write to me, and I will make sure you receive what you are asking for. So first, our first speaker is going to be Dr. Al-Houli. She's from Kuwait. She has a PhD in education, and she's a professor. She has a long career in education as an educator, not only in Kuwait, but also in many other countries of the Middle East, and also in the United States of America. Also, she specializes in educational curriculum, and also she has had a diplomatic career. She has been the cultural attaché of the Kuwait embassy in the United States. She is married. She has 4 children and 2 grandchildren, and something exceptional in her life, something that she probably is what is motivating her the most, is that when she was having her children, she delivered her dissertation at the same day as her baby. That's absolutely fantastic. She's a very busy lady. So the floor is yours, Dr. Al-Houli. You can unmute yourself, and we're going to hear you.
Hi, everybody. It is a pleasure to Zoom with you today. I hope everybody is safe and well, as 2020 has already been a friendly year to all of us. Today, I'll talk to you about you and me, I'll talk about a pillar of every level of society, the foundation of homes, communities, nations, and the globe itself. I'm going to talk about our mothers who have lived their lives from the start to beginning in service of mankind, about our grandmothers who have given so much and sacrificed their time on this planet to build a future for us all. We are here to celebrate their achievements and take pride of their accomplishments. Looking to the past, we see those accomplishments threaded within the fabric of the societies we live in. We are all created with tenderness, passion, love, beauty, femininity, and kindness. And above all, we women were born strong and able to endure. Look at me, myself. I had my baby child, Farah, my younger children, the youngest, with my dissertation the same day. I'm in labor when I delivered my dissertation and discuss it with my professor before I sign it, and before going to the registrar office to give them my copy of dissertation. I was on labor for 6 hours in advance, and I went to the hospital after I left the school and delivered my baby in the front of the hospital door. That's me. That's us. That's what women does or do. Studies show women are constantly proving themselves to be as formidable as men in horizontal thinking situation, and just as efficient as making deals and decisions in all sectors. A woman is no longer confined to her home and has begun embracing roles in social, political, legislative, and commercial institutions for a very simple reason. She was built to handle it. On the other end of the spectrum, some studies, which has come from men, by the way, concluded that women are terrible drivers. I don't see it really, but it does not matter because we are always right, even on the road. I will talk to you today about Kuwaiti women before and after the emergence of oil. I'll talk about our grandmothers, mothers, sisters, and daughters. Our grandmothers who carried life's huge burdens. They took responsibility in raising their children, managing their homes, and carrying their domestic chores with grace. They did this alone while waiting for the arrival of their husbands, who used to work in pearl diving or sailing to transport goods for a period no less than 4 consecutive months. The Kuwaiti women after the emergence of oil, this era, witnessed the role of our mothers in the struggle for advancement and development. My mother, in that age, received her education in government schools. She realized that the foundation of a successful life for her children began in the school. Therefore, she worked hand in hand with the Kuwaiti government to create an educated generation that could develop and provide based on specialized knowledge. Then she went out to work because life necessitated her presence in workforce. Women emerged into public life in Kuwait during this time, as the Kuwaiti government has provided them with the ideal social, legal, and political systems that has helped pave the way for women to obtain the highest degrees, starting from a bachelor degree to a PhD in all disciplines, ranging from education and art to engineering and medicine, which has enabled her to reach the highest leadership position in Kuwait, as well as in the Arab and regional fields. During Saddam's invasion of Kuwait, I witnessed this era myself, the era of both heroic and historical role of Kuwaiti women. The invasion in 1990 is an inspirational chapter in Kuwait's history. 30 years has passed since history recorded the name of Sana al-Fodi, the first Kuwaiti female martyrs, who was among 67 female martyrs who decided to denounce Saddam's invasion. Kuwaiti women participated in multiple resistance roles. Our heroines, Asrani Gabandi, Wafa al-Amir, Saad Hassan, are bravely stood against the occupation and tyranny of the oppressor's regime. The role of Kuwaiti women in resisting Saddam's occupation and supporting Kuwaiti legitimacy in and outside Kuwait has been recognized by the international community. During the invasion, women worked in the state facilities, especially hospitals and grocery stores. They also took part in some military operations, such as attacking military sites, capturing enemy soldiers, and distributing money and food for the civilian populations, and supplying the resistant group with money and weapons. In the wake of the liberation, Sara Akbar led the battle to suppress the oil finds. She was the first Kuwaiti engineer to work in the oil fields. Our achievement extended to modern Kuwait. Of course, Kuwaiti women have always had an active role in politics, but the year 2005 witnessed a great victory for women after the enactment of a law that allowed us, to elect and run in the parliamentary elections. Indeed, the National Assembly election in 2006 witnessed the first participation of Kuwaiti women in candidacy and election of the National Assembly. The political experience of women resulted in runoff to the National Assembly elections in 2008 and resulted in the arrival of 4 female MPs in Dr. Abdullah Salim Hall. Kuwaiti women established their role in the development process that the country has experienced in various fields. They have assumed leadership positions as ministers and undersecretaries in the government, members of the National Assembly, university deans and presidents, and member of Supreme Council for Planning. And just recently, 8 Kuwaiti women have been appointed as judges for the first time in its history. Kuwaiti women have been also internationally engaged in the representations of Kuwait in international institutions and hold the position of Kuwaiti ambassadors and attaches, a position I held myself 8 years ago, in addition to countless achievements in the private sector. Kuwaiti women are proud to the result of the great gain they have obtained during the past years. They have found definite success in terms of education attainment, whether in Kuwait or through scholarship abroad, as the number of scholarships to foreign countries alone reaches more than 29,000 for women last year, which contribute to the refinement and development of her ability, education, practical skills, knowledge, and accumulated experiences in her home, work, and in her country's development in various fields. Now I'll talk about the new generation. My daughter, Farah, is studying in the state pursuing her bachelor degree in marketing, as her mother did 20 years ago, getting my master and PhD from the States. I'm here with you guys today, representing the Kuwaiti women and recanting the story of strife, struggle, and success. It has been a difficult journey for all of us, but we should be very proud of how far we have come and how much we have changed and will continue to change for the better in the future. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for listening to my story. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Arhuli. Although sometimes it was a bit difficult to hear you, it was very interesting. Strive, struggle, and success. That is really indeed, and a multitasker. That's what women are. And that's how I think with a good cooperation, we can affect positively, not only the Middle East, but everywhere in the world, and bring positive changes. Don't you think so? Yeah. Right, so now we are...
Absolutely. We cannot do it without the government. Kuwaiti government been supporting Kuwaiti women all along, since my grandmother's era until now, and they will continue supporting women. Right, Fatma? Fatma agree with me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Without the authorities, we cannot do much, can we?
Absolutely.
So now we are going to go to our second speaker, Mrs. Carol Babican. She's Greek, Lebanese, of Armenian origin. And she lives in Beirut with her husband and 3 children. She has her bachelor's degree in political science and public administration. But more than anything, she is a very dynamic community activist and a very experienced mediator. She is the founding member and the president of an NGO called Ashrafiyeh 2020. Ashrafiyeh is an area, a community in Beirut, but actually her NGO is striving for a better quality of life for all the inhabitants of Beirut, not just Ashrafiyeh. And she has been also politically active. She has been a candidate in the parliamentary elections, and she likes sports, reading. I think we are going to hear some very interesting experiences about her dealing with youth. The floor is yours, Mrs. Babican. If you unmute yourself, if you would like to unmute yourself.
Okay, here I am. Am I being heard well? Is everything okay? Okay. So thank you for your introduction, and thank you for my colleague who spoke before me from Kuwait. Before I present myself and introduce in a more personal way who I am and what I do, I wanted to make this little joke because the lady before me just ended saying that we cannot do anything without the government. Well, the case in Lebanon is totally the opposite. We can do so much better than the government. So this is to give you a small idea before we go into details about what is happening in my beloved country, Lebanon. So as Zoe was saying, my name is Carol. I am born Babikian. Donc this shows my Armenian origin. I am married to Joseph Kokoni, who is Kokonis in Greek. So I have also the Greek passport. And my heart goes to Lebanon and to Armenia more than Greece, obviously, although my heart goes to my husband, okay? And I have raised my children here, and I think that this multinational belonging of us leads us always to make a choice. And sometimes I feel that the choice is that you belong where you live, and you belong where your parents are buried. And my parents are buried in Lebanon, and I feel my belonging is to Lebanon. I do strive and I do struggle for the recognition of the Armenian genocide. That is a very, very black spot in the history of humanity, and that has led us to arrive to Lebanon as Armenians. But we will not go there now. We're trying to find peace and to find a way to get together. So the role of women in shaping the future in the Middle East. Well, the role of women everywhere, the woman has a big role to play. And the first role that she plays is to give life. If there is not this belly that carries this baby, there is no life. And so we have this big role in giving life that makes us so reluctant to go into wars and to eradicate life from the earth. When we have the chance to, we try to struggle to keep people alive. And this is our role, to give life. It's our role to breed these people, that we are educating the children who are the generation of the future. Our biggest role is to educate them, to encourage them, and to support them. And this is so important. So the woman should be very much aware that everything she does, she will give it to her children or to the people and the young people around her. We lead by example. So you cannot tell people do this and that and do the contrary or the opposite. If you say you love your country, you have to stay in your country. You cannot tell them, I love my country, but I have to go. Then you cannot expect the youth to stay. So you stay and you leave everyone to live his dream. If the youth wants to go and his dream is the young person, her dream is to go away, then she will go away. And maybe by leaving, she will feel the real attachment that she misses, and she will come back with another luggage with her, with more knowledge, with better things to say and to give to her own country. So it is important to encourage the people to love their country, to show them your love for real through your sacrifice for your country. And it's also important to let them go so they can come back eventually with better feelings. And only do you feel love for something when you miss it. And if you go away, you miss your country. And this is when you really feel that you love it. I'm not going to preach further, but I mean, if you want a future for your country, obviously it's the youth who's going to do it. In Lebanon, we are going through a double crisis, unfortunately. One that started years ago and that blew up and was translated through the Thawra. We had a revolution in October 17, not much like the one that happened in Russia in October 17, because ours was a peaceful one. And everyone who knows Lebanese people, they know how much we love life and we are peaceful. And those who don't know Lebanon and who think that we are a country always at war with our neighbors, you must know that this is not our choice all the time. So the crisis that started was already about an economic crisis. We were going backwards, and this mainly because of corruption. This is why I said that without the government, we would be much better. So this corruption thing and the lack of accountability from the judges, from the social society, led us to this bursting of the society. We couldn't handle it anymore, and we went all to the streets. All of us, when I say all, those who know about Lebanon, they know that we are a mosaic of people, mainly about religions. So we all put our religions aside, Christian, Muslim, Druze, whatever. We all want what is right for our country, not to have corrupted people, and not to have this lack of accountability. On top of all, we were still fighting for this. And what comes out? Corona. I wish it was the beer. It was that damn Corona that is really, really, I don't need to explain it. Everybody is suffering from it. But we had already one crisis and we find ourselves in another crisis. We tried to make the best of it. By staying home, by loving the ones we love, we kept distance with them. And I can tell you, it was very helpful. We were one of the countries who had the least numbers of corona-related cases. Unfortunately, it is growing since we stopped the, how do we say it, staying at home, okay, the confinement. But we are aware that corona is not an easy thing to deal with. But we are aware that this should not divert us from our main issue, that is to fight corruption. And here the role of women, as you all know, has been always primordial, because they act. The women, they like to act. If a man acts like when he goes to war, we act on the ground when we go through NGOs to help the people around us. And here, like Zoe mentioned, I am one of the founders of Ashrafiyeh 2020, which was not at all meant to help the people. We had to make a better quality of life in Lebanon, in this area, city. And then we found ourselves with so many needy people that we had to shift to helping. And I can say very proudly that we had many people from abroad and from here, Lebanese people who still were comfortable and well off, who gave us the trust. Without trust, we can do nothing. They gave us trust, and we arranged to distribute food boxes, medication, even money sometimes, because you know that food is not everything in life. You need money to survive, to eat meat, to eat vegetables and fruit. You cannot put them in a food box for the people. Anyway, I think I'm being very enthusiastic about it, and I'm afraid I'm going out of the time. But I want to say to you that we are all multiple faith people, and we have to lead by example to show the people and the young ones that through love and energy you can reach everything you want. You lead, you show your love for your country, you show your love goes through sacrifice. It's nothing that has to do with the lovely thing, romantic stories that we see in the movies. You have to sacrifice, like a soldier who, for the love of his country, he sacrifices his life. Well, for the love of our country, of our communities, we sacrifice a lot of our time, of energy, of our possessings. And if there is one message that I want to conclude with, is to tell you what the Pope Jean-Paul said himself about Lebanon. Lebanon is not a country, it is a message. So if we can get this message to the world and show you how we can live in a peaceful way amidst a really, really endangered Middle East through the different countries around us, I think we are leading by example and we deserve peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Babikan. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. Indeed, leading by example is the most important, isn't it? Yeah, sacrificing and acting and doing things really for the sake of others is always the recipe for the greatest success, isn't it? Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you very much. And now we are going to go to our youth. We will start with a young lady from Jordan, Yafa Al-Shayeb. She's 25 years old. She's a student of pharmaceutical studies, and she comes from a family of refugees of Palestinian origin. She lives in Jordan, but she's originally, her family originally is Palestinian. Now she is going to talk to us from Romania, where she went for 10 months, and she went for volunteer work. And I think she was going to tell us about her life in Jordan and her study.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. I am glad to be part of this wonderful occasion. That all of us, we share the same goals, love and peace. Actually, I am wondering where to start and what is the most important points I have to share with you, because we have limited time. So actually, I wrote my speech because otherwise I will talk more than 10 minutes. So I am Yafa Shaib, 25 years old. I am from Palestinian, from Jordan, Romanian, from each country or each place I found love in it. I am here today, and I am part from this family because I was lucky when I met Mrs. Fusaya Rikora in Jordan. She's the president of Women's Federation for World Peace in Jordan 5 years ago. From that time, my life changed 180 degrees, and my eyes, my mind, and my soul opened to see new worlds. She had the credit for taking me on a new journey in the life and helped me to try many new things, even in Jordan or outside. I started working with her as youth leader in Jordan in our center, in an area which is very poor and miserable situation for the people who live there. And we try to go to do the best. together to help the people there and the children throughout the education projects. Of course, I faced many of the troubles, even in the work or with the volunteers and the people around us, but each time she was teaching me that every problem we can face it together and we can find a solution for it. Her trust on me and her love made me feel that I am a very strong woman. And always I remember that when I'm facing troubles with youth, especially with the guys, because I am female and they don't accept my actions because they see that I am female and I'm not supposed to do that. So she always was saying that Yafa, she's a very strong woman, like man, so it's not your business. She was giving me the power to continue my way, and I want to send her my greeting from this meeting. And of course, I want to thank for one more scholarship uh, because they supported me to pay for my university fees from the Mother Moon, and from this thing I met Father and Mother Moon, and I am thankful for this thing. Uh, Also, my situation was hard as being student and work at the same time. Her believing in me and her standing beside me was always supporting me. And of course, there are many other youth who are living in the same situation and suffering from it because they have to work and study in the same time. And we are appreciating their effort because they are working with us in the center, and they try to help the children with us in the same time they have to go to university and find work. Now I would like to share some ideas or some information from my experiences that could help to empowering the youth in Middle East. I want to talk about 3 points that I consider it's very important to work on from our point of view as young people. We work together in the center in Jordan. The first point I want to talk about the psychological support. As we all know, any person's psychological state affects a lot in terms of his positive achievement and progress. And every human being needs to psychological support that must come from the family, being as the basic structures of in any relationship. Then the teachers and the psychological advisor in schools or in clinic, and these things it's like lacking in Jordan, especially in general in Middle East, but in Jordan we don't have it. Almost all youth are suffering from this situation due to the distance between them and their families. So what I'm suggesting that we need to changing the cultural of shame about our need to visit a psychological advisor in our community. And we should help to make the parents aware about the importance of psychological providing for their children. Also providing the psychological support in the field of work. We have to be careful about all the workers and what they are need. The second point I will share it, it's the economical supporting or empowerment. In this point, I want to talk about youth who are responsible for their expenses and university fees, and some who take responsibility for their families. As many youth, they are suffering from this situation. This affects their physical and mental health due to the stress they are experiencing. So I suggest that we have to think about creating projects that are able to provide them with safe job opportunity and help them to innovate and develop their own ideas and creating investment projects in the Middle East, not abroad. Because we have this kind of stereotype that we don't have opportunity in our countries and we have to travel abroad to find work or any other chance. So now the third point I will share it. It's about the chances and experiences. The key point to support the youth in Middle East, from my point of view, is to give them the chance for trying the new things and have the experience. What I mean is to push them to take the first step in changing their life and others. And this point, we can work on it through the non-formal education and activities. These 3 points, like we reached it after I made many conversations with or discussion with the youth and the volunteers in our center. So I wrote just like shortly about it, and I hope we can work in it and we can achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Yafa. Thank you so much for your very sincere expression and expressing us your life and really what you think that has to be done and what is needed, and your so sincere efforts together with in Jordan, together with our volunteer there. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
now we have a gentleman, a young man who is going to also, he's part of the youth, but he's already an achieved professional. He's an architect. It is Mr. Joseph Ayub. He's Lebanese Armenian. He's already an architect. He received his degree with distinction. And but the main activity he has been doing is to be an active volunteer with several international and local NGOs. He is focusing on civic engagement, refugee camps aid, and many other things. And not only this, but he's doing it because he believes that's how he can bring a change. And he is a great motivator. He has been trying to encourage his friends, his classmates, his colleagues also to become volunteers. If they want to bring a change, he believes that this is how it has to be. So today he's connecting with us from all the way from Yerevan in Armenia, where he's working at the moment. The floor is yours, Joseph.
Thank you very much for having me, and I think it's a great opportunity that you have included the youth into this talk to hear different opinions. I have to agree with Mrs. Babikian that that working with NGOs is something very important in Lebanon, and one of the things that I was able to see change through was through NGOs and not from any other sources, unfortunately, which is why I was more motivated to contact more and more NGOs to see what we can do, how we can work together in order to try to have some kind of change, whether minor or major, but at least some positive change towards our community. When I think of youth empowerment, I think of the increasing individual capacity to a more positive community-based change, so that this young person is able to make more informed decisions. He is able to make more appropriate measures to addressing issues, and most importantly, will feel responsible towards his or her community. Because I think that NGOs are a very important place to start to work with change, I always thought that it is very important to link the organizations that are working in the community, whether they are humanitarian, environmental, social, for aid, to boldly link them with the education system. Education system being schools and universities, not just universities. I think there are many excellent organizations in Lebanon, and many of which are founded by women. They are run by women. They are very active because of the active women that are in these organizations. And I think that the most effective way to reach the youth is through having these organizations act in these schools and in these universities. If they are not connected, they will somehow disconnect the youth from the community. And one of the reasons why I began volunteering with UPF is with the Universal Peace Federation, is because they have contacted the university. The university sent us an email, and then they have found us as volunteers for us to help. So without this connection, we wouldn't have been able to find this opportunity to work in our community. That's why there should always be this connection. I mean, these children, us, we are in university 7 to 9 months a year. Why not have organizations every month come and talk about issues or engage the students in different aspects? If it's an environmental organization, why doesn't this organization come, for example, every month, take different students of different ages, take them to go plant trees, for example? This is one example, but this can be used for humanitarian organizations, environmental, social, whatever it was. Secondly, decisions are always being made in these organizations, whether they are official or not official. And I think something crucial is to always engage youth in the decision-making process. We should always be a part of the decision process, because yes, the decision is important, the final decision, but the decision-making process is more important, because what elements you take to come up with this decision shows how effective this decision will be later on. So this way, your decision as leaders will have continuity, because it has been approved by youth and the youth are excited about this decision, and it will be tackling issues for different generations and not just for the current one. That being said, I think that there should be a bigger number of platforms for youth representations. Unfortunately, I don't feel very represented in my country. I would love to be more represented. I would love to have more voice so that our voice can be turned into action. I think that another aspect that is very important for youth empowerment is awareness, and there should always be awareness campaigns that contribute to a better community change. For example, in Lebanon, it's known to be a diverse country. It is diverse in all the levels, whether it is religiously, politically, economically. It is, and this being said, it needs a strong social awareness campaigns so that the people will understand different perspectives of one another, so that they can empathize and support one another. Because the more awareness campaign we engage in, the more tolerant and accepting we become, and the better approaches we have to solving issues, thus a better community and unity among youth and the future. Another issue that I would like to talk about is sort of a psychological one, and I think sharing information between one another. There are many disadvantaged people who have less opportunities and access to resources to make them leaders. And according to UN Women, women are disadvantaged by unequal opportunities and access to resources needed to become effective leaders. But fortunately, in the Middle East or in Lebanon, many women have surpassed many barriers in order for them to become leaders. And this journey of getting there has to be shared to the younger generation, or to people who are facing similar barriers, in order for them to use these strategies or skills to empower them. I think that there is a lot to be said about these topics, and I think that in Lebanon, I think I still have a lot of faith in NGOs, and I do believe that NGOs are because NGOs basically are created by leaders, and these leaders want better change, and they will eventually reach official change through these NGOs and not the other way around, I believe. And giving youth an important role in these NGOs will ensure the continuity of the work done by these NGOs. And I think that this is the way that we need to move forward in my society in Lebanon. Yeah. Thank you very much, and I hope the points were.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you for a very clear and very sincere expression and really very scientifically put how the change can come, what you need as youth and what us as the actual now leaders can, how important is what we can do for the future generations, right? Yeah. So finally, we reach our last speaker, who is none other than Mrs. Hanshin, Caroline Hanshin. Many of you probably know her already. She is a Swiss grown up in the US. She lives in Geneva now, and she is the vice president of WFWP International for the region of Europe. And also she is the vice president of the NGO Committee on the Status of Women at the UN in Geneva. This is probably you are aware of the NGO Committee of the Status of Women, which every year organizes a very big conference in New York at the headquarters. It has its agencies all around, in all parts of wherever the offices of UN are. And she's the vice president of it in Geneva. She has been living there in Geneva for the last 20 years, raising her 7 children, and at the same time very duly representing WFWP at the headquarters, at the offices of the United Nations, affecting and influencing and inspiring her colleagues in the United Nations office, as well as caring for the youth. Of course, she has 7 children, so she definitely wants very much to care about the youth. And she has created the WFWPI International UN Internship Program since 2005 for youth to be trained at the atmosphere, at the environment of the United Nations. So today she will conclude our presentations, and she will give the Women's Federation view of how we can raise young leaders. The floor is yours, Mrs. Hanshin.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen with you. Is that good? Let's see. Is that good? Do you have the screen view then? Yes, okay. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Joseph and Yafa especially. Actually, thank you to all the speakers, but I feel Joseph and Yafa, your presentations, I hope you feel this too, will lead perfectly into what I'm going to say now. So this is a picture of an event that we made in Geneva. Actually, it was at the World Council of Churches with young people of different faiths. And we provided this platform, working together with the Universal Peace Federation and Women's Federation, to let them speak before a large audience about their ideas about, anyway, it's always different issues that the UN is working on. So my question today is, so whose responsibility is it that youth have these opportunities to be engaged? First of all, we have to ask the question, what are youth most concerned about? So yes, through my 7 children, I have heard answers to this and asked this question many times. What I notice, though, is that they are not just concerned about the problems out there, but they are very much thinking, what are the opportunities out there? What are the ways that they can meet those problems? How can they contribute in their lives? I'm just, as I decided to do a PowerPoint so I could show you some nice pictures, actually, of some of our youth activities. The one who's speaking there, she is the president, a Women's Federation president in Norway, who we brought to the Commission on the Status of Women program in New York, which we do annually until this year when the COVID-19 caused it to be canceled. But so she had an opportunity to meet with young youth from all over the world. This is not a Women's Federation event there. This is at the UN where she's speaking. This is a picture of the Horizon Summit. So at the same time that the Commission is running in New York, we invite our young women and sometimes and less young women to New York to participate in all the different debates and activities. And this was several years ago. This was one of our group photos. So I wanted to also share a few ideas. I would say they are our talking points or our advocacy at the United Nations, Women's Federation's advocacy points. So yes, women and girls, 50% are 50% of the population. We hear that all the time, and that's why they should be empowered and they should have the right to decision making. But I would say we can go a step further than that and say, more importantly, the reason women and girls should be included is because the best chance for prosperity and happiness in our families and in our communities is when men and women are living in harmony and they are leading together. So that means also in the family, when the parents are sharing leadership roles together. We all know about the Sustainable Development Goals, and some of us know about the opportunities that they provide for young people to be engaged, but actually not enough. And this I would refer to what Joseph and Yafa also were saying, that there are so many opportunities. Not only many NGOs are doing their own projects and activities, but the United Nations itself has organized many activities for youth to get involved in these goals. And it's very exciting because it means young people who might be frustrated or who might feel desperate do not have to go the way of, anarchy as we see today, what's happening in America, or the way of, just being, or even terrorism, or so there are really, and this is where the responsibility of the elder generation comes in, and the institutions, to help youth to realize that there are these opportunities, create the opportunities first of all, and help them to meet them, to reach them. Sorry, some of the photos didn't transfer so well. This is another debate at the United Nations in Geneva with the International Organization on Migration. We had a series of events over 10, almost 11 years now. So I would say, even though the SDGs provide a plan, an opportunity for us to engage and for youth to engage with a global mindset, it actually only works when those young people or elder people somehow already have that in their mind. That means they have been raised in families with parents and in communities that helped them to have that kind of empathy, as Joseph was saying, to have that kind of empathy and awareness that there are things that need to be done, and actually I might be able to help change that. That is the point I just made. I often bring this slide into my presentations because I work a lot in the area of human rights, and we see how human rights is being developed over many years and decades, actually, to more and more kind of profound and broad understanding. We have peace, prosperity, happiness. We have the rights to all these things. But, it really does not work if we do not, at the same time, develop a corresponding sense of duty, or even better than duty would just be even freedom, a freedom that I have to recognize that other people have needs and I might be able to help them. So what we were aiming for is a culture of people who do not need legal enforcement to care for others. In other words, if I do something wrong, I will be punished, but no, just spontaneously. And this, I would say, goes back again to the roles in early childhood and family. Even if we talk about something like the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, very famous for women activists, which says that women must be involved equally and fully in promoting peace and security. But actually, if we think about that, this global paradigm actually already exists in families. The role of the mother in families is exactly that. Sorry. No, go back one. These, you might recognize some of these people in these pictures. The one at top was in Geneva when we had one of our Middle Eastern women's conferences in Geneva, and this was entertainment time, youth and elders dancing together. And below is actually Lebanon. That is a project that they did. I think it's something that the Women's Federation Lebanon created, a place where young people can come and study and read and be together. And so just to make the point that creating peace and a peace culture is everyone's responsibility. No matter how inspiring declarations the United Nations or governments come up with, or well thought out agreements, brilliant laws, that this will not will it into place. Actually, this has to come through people, and it should begin with young people. So this is just another picture. See, Zoe is there too. We were in Korea, actually, at the DPI NGO conference, the United Nations conference, and we always try to bring groups of young people with us, to the point that now they're actually outnumbering us, which is a very good news. I just maybe to mention a word about our something maybe more internal about this idea of the relationship between parents and children and why this is so important. We talk about conscience a lot, and I think in religious communities and a-religious communities. But the amazing thing that we came to understand, especially as we have been working on a curriculum to present to young women, which I'll mention again in a minute, the role that conscience plays about the filial piety, that is the relationship between the parent and child, the development of this, and the cultivation in children of this joy of giving back. That means it goes beyond the burden or the duty of giving back because I'll get in trouble or I'll get caught, but the joy of giving back because we see the response or the reaction of the other person. I mean, it comes down to the golden rule. So if we can create a culture beginning in families that learn to act in alignment with good conscience, then as these youth, as these families develop, the ultimate result is we have less need for regulation in our world, which is what happens today. We have an incredible over-regulation. Just quickly, one slide, I wanted to mention a book that I used to read to my children when they were growing up, just to show this way that institutions and parents can work together. It's from the United Nations Library in Geneva, where it shows the family eating together with full plates. But then remember, actually, sometimes there's not enough for everyone. So these kind of small things, anyway, just to say there are so many resources and so many ways that we can work together with the institutions to help our families and our communities to understand this or have this awareness. We've done many events in the European Parliament, and again, we try to bring young people each time and talk about issues that are important to youth. These are pictures from our offices in Vienna and Geneva, some of the activities we've made at the United Nations, and some of our teams and some of our interns over the years. And yes, men are invited too. We have young men who are representatives at the UN, representatives of the Women's Federation at the United Nations. And one of my favorite was a young man who was so proud to represent the women's issue, 22-year-old. And when I asked him, why is it that you are willing to do that? I said, you could even have a badge for UPF if you prefer. And he said, no, I'm doing this for my mother, and I really want to do this. And he touched the audience so much every time he raised his hand in a meeting saying he's the Women's Federation for World Peace, and he made his points. So just another photo. This is one of our events actually in Cyprus, which some of our guests are here. Carol, you are there. Zoe, others are there. And Hermina is there. Many of our good friends from the Middle East conferences are there. And so again, always we bring in young women to join us for these activities, and it makes all the difference. But I would say that the really important point is the relationship between youth and elders cannot be, as not between men and women. It cannot be dominion. It has to really be, we have to listen to each other, deeply listen to each other, and stimulate each other. One has maybe more experience, one has more creativity and more, freedom to explore. So together we can do much better than we can alone. This is just the first page of our curriculum that we've been working together with Zoe. Actually, our Women's Federation Middle East and Women's Federation in Europe have been developing this curriculum, and it is ready to go. So I think we can hear more about that. And it's, I think, very, very exciting, which it touches on some of these ideas I've made. I wanted to make one or two more short points. The importance of mentoring, because I think even in our speeches today, with Dr. Al-Huli and Carol, this is the role of the mentor, actually, to be able to be of a character that young people want to learn from. And I think that, again, is our responsibility as the elders or as part of the establishment. So this is really a very critical thing that we have to really show our best. Also, we've done many events in national parliaments, again, with engagement of youth, and there's issues. The key point here is for us always to remember, or what we try to remember, is that community building and nation building is only secure when it is built from the bottom up, that is not like from early childhood up, and not forced, but reinforced from the top down. And I would even say from the sides, too, in our social networks. And finally, this is my last slide, just to demonstrate exactly these points. We have another event coming up in 2 days on Thursday, July 23rd. I will put this registration in the chat box after. But this is an initiative between the Women's Federation UN office in Geneva and in Vienna. And we have two wonderful young women who we have just kind of let them free to develop this, the initiative and the event. So this will be one of possibly once a month or once every 2 months events, but more than that, a whole program or a whole initiative to include youth from around the world and to really show the right order. That is, we as elders, we want to hold up our youth so they can take the steps for themselves. So myself, I'm very much looking forward to that. And if any of you have any interest or you would like to participate, then please, you can get in touch with us. They've done a remarkable job, and they found the speakers. They have the whole, the whole concept in their mind. And final word, what I find is really most encouraging is, even though we said to them, please, you do this, you prepare this, you coordinate this, we found that every time they kept coming back to us, the elders, and saying, is this okay? Do you think this is okay? Should we do something maybe a little bit differently? And I felt really this is exactly the way it should work, that we can let them free, but they are very much feeling, they very much want our support and trust us. So I will close with that, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. And thank you. I'm so happy to see many of the friends from the Middle Eastern conferences that I see on this screen. And yeah, let's continue when we don't have to just meet by Zoom, but we can meet again in person. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Thank you. It was an excellent presentation, and really, definitely, I think you will find all of us on Thursday to the other conference to join. Myself, I want very much to be there, and all of us is really very interesting. Indeed, youth is the future. Youth is also the present, and it is very important to think very seriously how they can themselves develop this conscience for the future, to become even the parents of all of us. I think there comes a moment when the youth becomes the parents, but also this synergy between generations is so important, so important. Thank you very much.